So as we start day two, we'll be finishing off whatever that is left for our backend. And what I start off, I like one, as we are saying, we'll be like won't be won't be making any changes in the day one folder. Rather, like, we'll be starting from day one, but just creating account for that. Next thing would be somewhat like going through what we have done. And if you remember from the past day, oh, before I proceed any further, Abhishek, can you hear me? Am I audible? Am I clear?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay, okay. So, uh, as I was saying, so what we have done, starting from day zero, we like had a very simple app. Then in day one or in the previous day, what we have done is like to make the APIs as per the format that we will be using in the Mat2 also. Right? Even we have seen that single endpoints, like there is contact and ID, so that you can like interact with the table and the single API can handle multiple types of methods, right? Basically, all the CRUD operations that we be willing to do. Those are to get request, one post, one put, and one delete. Right? Next thing was sifting out the stuff that we don't need in here in this file. Right? That could be like the configurations into the config.py file, in the model and the classes, into the like the database models and stuff, in the models.py file. And after that, we have like initialized connected it up so that it is managed. Next thing, what I did was in the last leg of the previous day, I have initialized or I have installed Flash Security that I will be using for my authentication and basic implementation into my app. Right? And over there, in the models, I have added three more new tables. Those were user, role, and role user table. User was the table which was uh, responsible to capture and store all the details about a user. Then there was a role table that will be having the uh, like declared roles for our app. And finally, the association table in between a role and a user. Right. Next thing, as I said, that we won't be interacting directly to these three tables with SQL Alchemy. Rather, we will be using the data store that is being supplied by Classic AI to interact with. I mean, totally, but mostly. Like most interactions will be through the SQL Alchemy user data store. Now, for that, I have used like I have called it into a variable by supplying database like the SQL Alchemy instance, user table, and the role. Okay. And after that, in after PY, what to do? I just imported the user data store, and from the Flash security library, I got security method and security method, and I've initialized it by supplying the task instance along with the data store. Okay. Now that is where we left off, and today, oh, even there is something more that was in my db.init file. I have added two more methods. Basically, I started started off with those two methods in my after PY, but later on I shifted those. Right, most probably. So basically, what were we doing in DB network PY 5? We started off with the idea that whenever my app was initialized for the first time, we'll be like having the database built and whatever requirement that we need to that are needed to be done will be done beforehand, right? And do not have to do the same thing over and over again whenever the server is restarting. Rather, I can do a simple check, but why to do it in this manner? Again, there are multiple other ways, multiple other thoughts that you can put in, but as of now, with a very simple and clear thought that why am I like, doing that? It's doing that just time. I can keep it as a uh, as a consideration that yes, I will be having all those with uh, so where was I? I was like in here that the data was so I was going to say like whenever the database and the tables are being created, at the same time I want what I want the roles roles for my application to be declared out, right? And it could be something uh, like I was processing and doing that with create role create roles method. We are declaring two roles as of now, administrator and the admin and the user role. And before I proceed any further, that is the most important thing that I need for my app. Before anything, it's need. It could be anything. Just after the database creation, I need post. And next thing would be creating the admin user. If you have gone through the statement, they have clearly mentioned that uh, the admin users will be added manually, rather it should be added automatically whenever the database is initialized or whenever the app is initialized for the first time, right? Uh, for that, I have made the same similar kind of an method, and I'm calling that. So this file gives me three things. Helps me with three things. First thing, to create a database. Then it'll go ahead and check if the roles are present or not. If not, that will create it. And in the last slide, it will be checking if that user is present or not. If not, it will create that one user, right? Three things. Next thing would be in my app.py. After that is done, I have gone and made the register and login endpoint. Now, whenever I was going to the register endpoint, what do I need? Again, it depends. As for the model, if I go through the model, I just need the email ID and the password, right? So if you check in app.py, I'm taking in three things: username, email, and password. Three things taking in as in the response from our client. Right? And those all are managed. So username, email, and password, all three are needed, and it's for register. And I'm checking with the email and the username. If any user is already present in the with that specific email, then take, I won't be taking in because I want to keep email to be unique, and same goes for username. Right. Next thing would be on line 31, where I was like creating the user, creating the user with user data by supplying out the username, email, and password. After that, I was allocating a role for that user. And over here, what you want to do is that you should be like keeping it an default option where your register endpoint should be allocating a user role, not an admin role. Considering you are making your app with only two roles, right? If you are going for a multi-user role, like more than two, and that is also possible. But in that case, you just need to manage it, right? Manage it correctly. That's uh, then I'm just saving the user in the database. Then there was the login endpoint. In here also, I'm checking if the password and email and password are supplied. Then I'm checking if the user is present with that specific email or not. Then if that user is present with that, like if I could find a user, then I'm checking if the password that is supplied to me and that is saved in my database are those matching. If not, then I'm not proceeding. Again, there is one more check that I'm doing, that is uh, if the user is having the active attribute to be true or not. If not, then I'm like not allowing the user. Then after that is done, I can proceed for user login. And for that, I have chosen that I will be using flash security and token based authentication. So on line 61, what am I doing? I'm just returning out some details that are returning a message, what's the email and the user ID. Next thing is the authentication token. Over here, I can generate an authentication token from the instance where I found the user using user data store and stored it into the user variable on line 46. I'm using that variable and having that activated method, that is get authentication token. With by calling this, I can like generate the authentication token, and so that I'm like supplying out the role. But before that, on line till starting from line 56 to line 58, I'm doing something. That is from the flash security module, then from flash security library, I'm importing the login user method, and on line 57, I was like calling that method by supplying the user instance, like you supplying the user for which I found it. And finally, that's I'm doing db.commit. Another thing is that so thing is this login method. I'm using this login user method only to track down the user details. User details as in, if you go to the mod app, 5 columns, that is login count, last login app, and the login app, those stuff. I'm just tracking those stuff. But it can be used in both ways, but I'm not worried about that as of now. I'm just using it just for the sake of checking the values, nothing else. And again, as I have said, that using user data store, it's like staging the changes. Like it could be like uh, adding the details and saving the changes. But until and unless I include db.system commit, it won't be saved to the database. The same thing is applied over here too. So until and unless I run db.system commit, the details won't be saved. And I have tried the login method for 1 or 2 times, I guess, and check that out in the user table. That yes, last login ad, current login ad was saved, and the IPs were saved, login count was saved. And with this, I close down the previous session. And the thing that I liked was there was one slight thing that came whenever I was trying out login in the last leg of it. That was one error that I have seen. And just to sort it out in a very quick manner, I just wrote an actual list that is on line 6 and added it and proceeded. So the thing is that if I comment this down and if I try to run the server, it's day two, speed day two, so that's right. We're trying with Postman. Right? So the server is running on local host like that. And the thing that I want to check is login. Right? Now it is a post request and in the body, what do I need? I need to set it by so drop and system. So it is on the top. Right? The thing that I need is email and password. So the email was user1 at the rate abc.com. Password is user1. If I give it a try, then you'll see the response is a bit different. It says meta code to be 400, like with the meta setting the code to be 400, and the error says you can only access this endpoint when not logged in. Okay, okay, okay. Uh, See, send it now. You'll see that this is the response that I was expecting. That the error says the CSRS token is missing, even everything says that CSRS token is missing. Right now, let's do something else. This was the response. And if you go through my app, you won't find like, you won't find a get method that is allowed for the login endpoint, right? I, I can give it a try. That, for example, if a method is not declared by default, like for example, for a hello world, then it goes for uh, get, right? But if you have defined something in this manner, where method is only having a post method, in that case, any other method, it could be the default method or something else, it won't be allowed. But I can give it a try for hello, right? Let's see. I don't have any method declared, right? For example, hello. And if I try get, I can get a response. I'm getting a string. If I try post, it won't be allowed. The same is applied if I write something as methods to sort of get. Let's change it to post. Save it. So it got it. No. Now if I try with start with get for hello, it would say that method is not allowed. But if I try with post, so it would send me back a response. So what am I trying to explain? That is in here in the login method, only post is allowed. That we have seen that we are trying with post. That's fine. But have this login and I'm setting it to get and send. I am getting a response back what it shouldn't be. Right? Example, what am I seeing? I'm getting a response in that meta wala part. I'm getting the code to be 200 in response wala part. I'm like generating a CSRF token. And identity attributes, like we were setting identity attributes to validate. But how is that possible? I haven't made a get method, allowed a get method for this endpoint. That is because if you are using Flash security or if you are on Flash security have some default modes. Like one is login, another one is log out. Okay. And if you go through the configurations, you can like start off the register endpoint. Okay. Now, thing is that if you have gone through your documentation, then you might have found multiple other things. All right. In here, what I want is rather not want to use Flash Security's default web pages or the default endpoints, right? Rather, I want to use my own endpoint that I have made. That is this one. Now, the conflict is that Flash Security, well, like you cannot like what I have seen is, I'm not sure, but what I have seen is that I don't have any configuration or any way possible to totally like shut it off. Okay. Like like a switch that I can turn it on, turn it back off. That I haven't found. Uh, at least two once. Uh, okay. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think you can hear me. So there was a okay. So I want to mention that there is a power cut in my area, and I can sustain for 15-20 minutes on my battery. If within that time, if the supply is back, I can proceed without any interruption. Else, there might be some delay. So I would request you to consider that time to be a break and use that time before uh, like do not consider that the class is being interrupted. Rather, we have less content for today. We'll be finishing off most of the stuff, so no need to worry about that. Okay. So I was talking about something, the method. So in here, it's like I don't have any switch kind of stuff. Like I'm not sure if I have that or not, but I haven't found it. So in the configuration wall part, what did I do? I have added a configuration that says security login URL. So it is uh, a configuration that you can give out for Flash security, which changes the endpoint for login. Okay, the default endpoint for login that is provided by that Flash security library. Okay, so in this way, if I try this out, so what is happening? The default endpoint is changed to some random thing. Okay, and slash login is now emptied. Okay, that is local host, whatever port ID and stuff. Then slash login endpoint is emptied out. So in that case, what will Flask do? Flask is having that slash login is empty, so it can use this use the user defined Flask user defined endpoint, right? Previously it was having a conflict and it was using Flask securities method. Now with that is done, I can use my own login endpoint. Okay. Else there could be one more thing, that is something like uh, changing it to a different name, be it sign in or something, or adding something extra like something um, as slash auth login, and changing it up. In that case, this could be also be slash auth user So auth register. Right. I just want to use this user defined the method that is defined by me. Right. Now that in place, I can give it a try. Yes, that is working or not. Yes, our is running fine. And if I try login now, see if I try get now, it still is saying because I have changed the endpoint and it's auth slash login send, and it says that method is not allowed. That is what I want to see. And if I do post with this too, I'd be seeing whatever response that I have prepared. Right, that authentication token would be their email, ID, message, and row. Okay, this is what we'll be wanting to see or wanting to use. And with this, I say that I can proceed with the rest of the part. At least for slash securities part, majority is done. There are two more things that is left. One is how can I protect the endpoint? Protect the endpoints. Protect the endpoints as in as for that where I need the authentication. Authentication, yeah, where I need to authenticate to access the APIs. Another one was be like authorization. Authorization as in role-based access control, right? Where I have authorized a kind of a user or a role, and those users could be like able to access that, else the other person won't be. Something like that. If you are getting my point, what am I trying to say? Okay. Now that is very simple. And this is the part where we need it from the endpoint perspective. And there would be one more thing. That is what why am I settling for authentication token? Why I'm sending the token whenever I'm logging in? That is I would be using it. So there is one more thing, and we'll be checking that out. And with this two part, I say if class security is done. Going back to app.py, consider the scenario. Test to endpoints would be open at all the times. Register and login will be open at all the times. Again, consider this. I'm not going for a full-fledged or industry standard app, rather a app which will be able to have a decent, I won't say very decent, but yeah, somewhat security. Okay. Why I said that, that is because I'm telling you to currently to open up register and login endpoint. Like those will be open at all the time. So those APIs can be accessed by anyone. Right. And let's do something like rest of the APIs are not allowed by anyone. Okay. Those are restricted. How can I do it? Not allowed by anyone as in you just need to log in to access that, access those APIs. Okay. So for that, what am I doing is I'm getting a method from Flash security and that says auth required. Okay. Now those methods are like uh, decorators. Okay. So what is a decorator? Basically, you are just adding the methodologies and whatever are the functions with @app.route. So what are we doing? On line 68, I have a method defined that is hello, and that method returns me a string. Now, just to make it as a endpoint, what am I doing? I'm just adding up a decorator. The same implementation will be done by this auth required. Okay, that is how it is done. Is after this endpoint declaration, adding the uh, decorator, which is like making it an endpoint, or declaring that to be an endpoint. After that, I would use at the rate auth required, and in here I have to supply something else. That is what kind of security do you want to use? Okay, in here I would supply token. Right. With this, what is happening is it is like protecting the endpoint. So you need to have some kind of authorization or authentic, like you have to authenticate yourself so that you can access this endpoint. The same thing is done for all, right? All the endpoints. So it won't be allowed anymore. If I restart my app, you can have a look that if I try to access hello, be it any method, I'm not worried about that. I just want to see this message that 401 and you must sign in to view the resource, right? This is what I want to see. Another thing that is working, how is it working? Like, firstly, I'm declaring it to be an endpoint. After that, I'm checking if I have the authorization, like if the user, whoever the client is trying to access the endpoint, does they have the authorization, right? That is what I'm checking. And that the same thing is checked by everyone. Now, here comes the play. I need the token. Consider the scenario. Whenever I am a client, consider this. I am doing a login. I generated the token. Next thing, what do I want to do? Like, forget about the front end and stuff. From the back end perspective, I have used the login API, generated the token, got the token. Next thing, I can proceed for the next API call, right? So, in terms of the backend, right now in Mac 2 or whatever kind of, thing that I have in my backend, I can do API calls, right? Apart from that, I don't have anything like redirect and stuff. That's not here. It's the RESTful APIs. So it's like I need to call or I need to uh, like, call the next API. Right? Now I cannot call it in this way. Rather, I need to supply the token. So in here, the method says that you need to supply the token. Then only I would respond to you. Again, it should be a valid token, and those validity checks are done by Flash Security and my backend. You just need to supply me a token. That is what I need. So uh, where can I or how can I supply the token? That is, I will be supplying it through the header. So if you go through this, a request have multiple parts, right? And at least if you have seen that we are using the body, okay, request body to send the detail, basically send a JSON. In a similar way, what I want to do from the request header, I want to share the token. Okay. So for that to be possible, like if I share the token from here, then it will be like I can access the endpoints. There is that now just to make it possible, I have to add one more thing that is a configuration that is security uh, it's security token authentication header. Yeah, that is what the name is. Security token authentication header. I can give it a check with. Let me check the documentation once. Yeah, that is the thing. So I'm defining something like what am I saying? Whenever a request is coming in, I need the token. As per this in endpoints, I need the token. You have to supply me the token. Now, what I have defined is that whenever or however I need the token, I would be checking the token is supplied. Where to check? I will be checking the header part, like request header. And with the request in the request header, I expect that there should be a key that is authorization. Authorization. That is what the spelling that I wrote. Yes, authorization. And this key will be having the token attached to it. Okay. how I was having the JSON object is the same idea over here too. I'll be having that key. That key is being defined by me in the configuration. That should be authorization. It should be present in the header, and that should be having the token. Okay. Now, at least in terms of this, at least in terms of Postman, I am having it as a like I have manually have to supply the token. But whenever I will be building the front end and will be like integrating it with the backend, in that case, it will be totally be automated. So the user doesn't have to do anything. Okay. Right now, how can I give it a check? Is if I do login. Okay. Uh, the backend server needs to be restarted. Send and so,
Excuse me, sir.
yeah,
Hello.
yeah.
Your screen is like lagging a bit.
Uh, Sorry, it's because of the battery. Like, is it quite a lot?
Yes, yes, quite a lot. Like later it is showing, but if it is a small time, then it's not coming.
Okay, okay. Okay, I will be then in that case I will be slow myself down on the screen. Uh, so what am I trying to do is I am trying to log in. Okay, the same thing that I have done. If I send a request, in that case, I can see that the response is giving me the authorization token or authentication token, right? Now, what will I do? As I was saying that whenever a request is made, I have to supply it in the header. So first thing I would copy the token. Okay, still till the starting till the end, whatever there is present, I would copy it, paste it in place of value. Okay, and I would make a request to slash hello. Okay, it was a post request. If I send it, you can see that it is responding me hello world. That is fine. If I try get, you will see that it said method not allowed. But if I remove the authorization token, then you will see that it is saying, oh, sorry, sorry, change it to post. I post, it is saying that it's 401. You must sign into the resource. Okay. Now if I supply token, check that. It is okay. So the same thing is applied for all the endpoints. That all the endpoints are as of now secure. Next thing, security is done. Authorization is in sorry, authentication is in place. Without the token, you cannot access any of my endpoints. But there is something more. Consider the scenario. I have two kind of user. One is a normal general user, another one is an admin user, right? So the thing is that in the contact part, do I do something like uh, what am I saying is that all the endpoints cannot be accessed by all kind of user, right? Rather, it can be segmented out. Consider the scenario. I have for my whole app, as I have two roles, and there is an admin role. So it's like you would be segmenting your app into two parts, or at least in multiple parts, right? Where you will be allowing users as per the role. So the scenario, some part of your app that is for admin, you do not want your user to access that, right? Now, for that to be done, what can I do? In a similar manner, after authorization, I can use that. Uh, what's that? Roles accepted. That is again a decorator. So after authorization, after I'm checking that yes, you have a valid token. I'm using roles accepted In this case, I am allowing both user and admin. In here, I am allowing again it's hello world, so admin user both. In greet 2, I am also allowing admin and user, but in contact, I'm just allowing uh, admin, right? Admin can create a contact, and the rest of the part is only for admin. So these two a endpoints are only for admin. User cannot access. Even for example, hello world can only be accessed by admin. Now let's give it a try. Okay. Any more thing? I do not have to do anything more. I am sending the token. Token will be handled by like this two will be handled by that single token. Okay. Let's give it a try. If I try hello, server is not running. If I restart the server and if I try hello, it is responding correctly to me. But if I try hello world, will it respond? It is not responding. Okay. So I'm not allowed. But if I change it to get, it says 403. You don't have a permission to view this resource. That is because if you check app.py, what am I having? I have set the roles accepted to be admin. So what does it mean? Until and unless you are a admin, you won't be allowed to make a request or like you are allowed to make a request, but you won't be getting a response back. So you need that admin role. Okay. Now, how that could be? Like if you see in the body, I was using user1 at the abc.com. If I change it to admin now, admin credentials, in that case, I can get oh, I can get the token. Invalid password. What password did I get?
Admin 123.
Acha. Okay. I got the token. Copy it down and place it in a header in a different. Like I am not sending that authorization right now. And the above authorization is a normal user. Use that user, getting the token over here and giving it a try. So let's try with hello first. Hello. Send a request. Ah, set it to get. So if I try hello world, so it is responding because hello world is accepting both types of users. Be it admin user, be it a normal user, both are accepted. And next thing, hello world. Hello world is only accepting admin. Right now, it is also responding back to me because I'm using the admin token over here. Admin token. Now, if I try with the user token, like I can show it that it won't be responding back. It is responding right now. I guess the authorization didn't change. Something broke. Let's see. Hmm. That is not what I expect to see. Oh, okay. Let's do one thing. Let me try it from the terminal. Let's see. It shouldn't be. Oh, hmm. Okay. Hmm. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, it is now working fine. So see my low oil and this one should say that. Now it is working fine. So if I use Apple token, then it's like responding back. Else, it is giving me 403 that you are not having the permission to use this source. And that is place. I see that the security part is almost done. At least for the basic part is done. Anything more you can go through it. If you want, you can add more stuff. Something like hashing and all. I'm not doing hashing as of now, but again, even you can accept the hash. Like you can add that to the app. So yeah, you can do that. Next thing, what am I saying is that in place, at least for me, security looks good. Do you have anything to ask at least for a security based part? You can ask me, else I proceed for the next part.
One question, sir. You
Yes.
added auth required. Then in the bracket you wrote token, right? So
Right, right.
is it like a token, the absolute thing, and we can change something like that? How it
No,
is
that's an absolute thing. So
actually?
there are three options. Either you set it for session, token, or basic, or in some combinations. Okay, I have set it for token only. So it would be accepting a token. If you are like, I am like setting it to be an the API would be, or the endpoint would be only be allowing token based authentication.
Okay. Okay. Another thing, sir, you changed something in the settings of Postman, and then in ran it ran.
No,
So
no,
can you please
because
explain that?
previously it won't be like giving me an cookie right now, but somehow it gave me a cookie. That is because I was using the previous login endpoint. But most probably it shouldn't give me. Like there was a cookie that was attached to the request, and that cookie shouldn't be generated, and even it shouldn't be allowed because I have set it for token. So I don't know, something broke, and this happens a lot. No need to worry. Have it right. Okay, so that is for security. Next thing would be mm, In terms of backend, one is there is one more library that I like. See, as per the API declaration, declaring of the endpoints, this is fine. You can use the Flask library to do it. That is as good as using. That is as good as it would be for our almost eight. But you can go for some other libraries. They are already present. Okay. You can use that. You can proceed with this one. That is anything is fine. That is what I'm saying. Yes. Just for the sake of showcasing, I'm just showcasing. Else, it is good to go. That is pip install Flask RESTful. I just installed it in my requirements.txt, so I would update it. Which is txt. Mostly I have text. So consider this. At least for the initialization part, it's something like uh, let's for example, let me shift all the endpoints. These are the endpoints, and I will be keeping these two endpoints, hello and hello world, in this format. And apart from that, any other API will be shifted to. Let me shift it to the RESTful library format. Okay. So in day 2, okay, even over here, so I can have done something like even for this one, this Flask wala endpoints, you can use Blueprint to shift it to different files. That is also possible and accepted very well. Okay, so that your app.py is less crowded and your app is more organized, right? Right now, I have what something around 150 lines or 143 lines of code, and if I have to find a bug, I need to go through it and find it, right? So what am I saying? Get my idea that if I make it more restructured, right? For example, if I am getting an error and I am somewhat aware that it could be from configuration, so I do not have to go back to app.py and search for the configurations. Rather, I have the configurations in my config.py and I can directly go in there and have a look. The same is applied for any other thing. For example, if I have something in my model, I can I'm not I know that I have the models in model.py and I can go in that file and have a look. Right? In the same way, it's good to restructure. Okay. Now for that, what am I saying? At least for the endpoints too, I can restructure it into uh, shift it into a single file, name it as routes.py. Else, I can do something more. For example, the endpoints right now I don't have much validations and stuff. Even I'm not worried about validations. Normal functionalities could be like multiple lines, right? So in that way, I can do something as rather shifting goes into routes.py file. I can have a routes dollar direct in here. I can have multiple files. So what am I doing? I was saying previously that I can shift it to a routes.py file. It could be of 500 lines or something. Right now, what am I saying? Rather doing that, I would be creating a directory, naming it as routes. Okay. And in here, I would be having multiple other files. Like for example, auth.py. What auth.py will do? So the auth.py file that is present in the routes directory will be having the endpoints that are responsible for login, register, and log out, and whatever other things. like whatever it is authentication. Okay, then there could be something else and something else. So breaking it down into multiple files so that it can be again restructured, more restructured. So let me have two files as of now. So, in auth.py, what will I do? I will just shift this to it's the thing is that I'm missing out some of the things. One is the app instance, request, and user data stores. Okay, let me bring those down. So from models, code, DB, and user data stores, and from the class library, I can get the request. Now I say most of the error is gone. Just that uneven. Right now, I'm not using blueprints. Rather, I'm using that classic RESTful library. Okay. Consider the scenario. I'd be like, I'm going to change this into a Flask RESTful, like whatever format is accepted by Flask RESTful. But before that, I want to talk about the structure of an endpoint. So I have this decorator, then the logic stays in this Python method, right? But if you see it in a more deeper way, you will see there are three parts, three major parts. One is basically the endpoint that I am declaring. Next thing is the method. And finally, there's the logic. Okay. That stays in the Python method. Now, three things I have with me and I have to manage. Now, what am I saying? I won't be using this decorator. Right? Next thing, let's forget about it. Here is the method declaration. Python, where I'm declaring it as a with the name as register. Right? Rather, I won't do this. What will I do? I will define a class, and the class name could be register. This is possible. Are it right? But there is something more. I have defined it into a class. Next thing would be okay. See, do not quote me on technicalities or whatever it could be the definitions. Just for the sake of uh, understanding purposes, I'm saying it. So I have changed it from like whatever, however the logics were there. I have shifted it from a Python method to a Python class. One part is done. So out of three. Next is I would shift it to like I would be declaring out the method. How can I do it? So that is done after the class declaration. In here, I would define post and supply self and shift all this whatever there was within this method. So how what are the changes? One is the class, and the class will be having the logic. Then the method, like I would define a Python method. The method will be having the name of the HTTP method that you are allowing, and within that you are having all the logic to your endpoint. Okay. Now you have to supply self here, and similar to your model declaration, what were we doing? We were like supplying db.model, if you remember, db.model to the Python class. In the same way, over here, I'll be getting from Flask RESTful library. I'll be getting resource, and that will be passed as a parent class to this class, so that it is made into a Flask RESTful class. Right. Next thing would be let me change the login follow part. Again, same idea. This becomes as a class, and I have to pass resource to it. And within this, I have to define what method that I will be allowed to post. I have to separate myself. And then something more. It is not that we change this and it's done. There is something more that is, see, in the return statements, previously I was just using that dictionary wala version, like dictionary word. It is such a rare adding a comma and whatever HTTP status code. Like I said, the HTTP status code in the previous session, in the previous day. I'll be having the same thing. Okay. But right now, to have it, I need to get it like it's not that easy. Okay. There will be some errors. Okay. Just to overcome it, from the Flask library, I need to get two more methods. That one is JSONify, another one is make response. Now, I will be giving it a small change. Wherever the return statement is, I will be adding some extra things. That is, make response and make response will be having JSONify and JSON. Basically, JSONify wala method. Now, so JSONify method will be having the dictionary object. Next thing, JSONify will stay within make response. Make response will be having this JSONify, whatever JSONify will be returning, and with a comma, the HTTP status code. Got it? So that is to be done. For that, I'm just using the find numbers to add it at every piece. So what the with this I have right order it is okay. If I save it and okay, at least what each endpoint for both for the register and login, but each endpoint, the three parts that I have said, two are handled. The rest is to declare out an endpoint. And even just to like register it with my like register with my the Flask RESTful instance, I need to do something. That is, I would go back to app.py. Here I am getting an error. So that was not closed. Was not closed. Yeah. It's really happened. In app.py, I have to do something more. That is from the Flask RESTful library. I need to import this API method. Okay. And with that in place, after security, I declare a variable API equals by using API that I need to supply app to it, and it's done, initialized. Next thing, from routes directory going in auth file, I want to import register class and login class. After that, those two are there. Then what will I do? I use this API instance to add resource, and I would supply the class in question register, and after that I would declare the uh, endpoint. API source login class and then is. Let me have a look if it is working fine. For that, I'll just restart my app and give it a try. Previously, like it should be without any change. It should give me whatever previously it was giving me. So post and has the body, and if I send it, let's see, this like whatever, like in terms of the client, there is no change. That is what I expected it. Let me do the same thing for the rest three. Just to test that. Okay, there is in here. From resource. Like those two endpoints are not protected, so that is fine. And let's go ahead and quickly make the changes. Okay, in here I can show you multiple things, even path really stuff. Consider this, and so let me name it as read class, and I'm passing resource to it. Okay. Next thing, I'm allowing get method self, and there is a path variable. So that is after self. I just write it, hit the name, okay, and return, and it's done. Okay. Now the thing is that let me do it for next. Okay, there is something more. In here. See, in here I have two methods. So what will I do? Let the class name be add contact and I pass equals to it. And after that is done, I would shift. No, no shifting is needed. Okay, needed. See, previously I was declaring out the method. Okay, in place of whatever HTTP method that I was allowing for that endpoint. Okay. In here, what will I do? I have allowed to post and get. So in the if statements, I will change it. See, this is the if statement. I will change it as define get or self to it. And this one is define post and pass self. And it's done. Same goes for this three. The third one. Plus what was that? Manage contact resource. And this is getting changed. So this needs to be handled. The idea that I am getting is strong, but path failing. Right? Okay. Try to see. Yeah. This is how we will create it. Classes. Okay. The thing left is just unify and just once. This was the same. Yeah.
It has done for other roles also.
Mm. This potential. That is why it's best to have it in a more structured way, having your methods in there. Some others. Okay, thanks. I'm not going into that.
Yeah, you need to open the curly braces. You deleted the mistake. Listen for this, bro. There one curly brace is there.
Ah, yeah. I'm getting into that. And else, but what other and ask for food? What to this one? So I'm going to squeeze it out. The responsibility is done. If there's anything left, we'll be getting it. There is a problem in the call is not there. Make response. And mostly the errors are done. So, so in the same way, I'll be like setting up the so what was this one. So that's other things are done. Now I have to manage this application required and roles accepted. This will be managed in this way. See, after get, I need to add this. So this stays up. Rather transfer. Oh, sorry. Before that. And the same way, accepted is easy. So with this, I say everything that was previously there is being managed and made as per this also. So
Can you please go back to the daily? Okay.
so it's just the structure, but everything else is same. How it should be, how it would be. placed and whatever the things and it will be handled. It's like you have to manage it and it's
One question, sir.
huh.
Delete, you have wrote just above the function definition. Okay, so the particular in above the particular function definition, we have to put method. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I am not getting it.
I'm saying that above the method definition that def delete, you have to
Hmm.
mention that auth required or else accepted
Yes,
for the particular function, right?
yes.
Okay.
Going back in here, I can do it with my I try to send. It is sending to me back. That is because in the header I'm supplying authorized. If I do not, it's like 401. That is good. There is okay now packet part, not just left. The part that I will be doing right now is another slight change. See, it won't make a huge difference or huge difference in terms of today's code or whatever code that I have currently. But the thing is that it would be helpful whenever it is like I will be going for our backend job, basically in salary. So what am I doing? See, on line 8, I am defining a method, naming it as create underscore app. And whatever that I am selecting right now will be shifted in that method. Okay. So what did I do? And let me just rename it for once. So what did I do? Whatever there was, I was just uh, declaring a variable, calling the class method so that I can create a class instance. Then on that class instance, I am just adding the configurations. And finally, I was getting the DB and basically DB variable as in the SQL alchemy method. I was initializing it into my Flash server. Then there's the security, and finally the API. That is a Flask RESTful library. Okay. Same thing is done over here. Just shifted into those into a method, and that method ends with return init app, comma init API. Now the thing is that see what was the scope and stuff. You remember from your Python days, like whenever you were studying Python, those variables, even if I have kept those variables as API and app, still will it be accessible? No, right? Until and unless I call this method because those are inside this method in terms of the file. Like, uh, if I do not, if I considering it's not there as of now, that is what is happening, right? Those are into a method, and that method is like okay, there can be a method. I'm not worried about that, but this file is missing those. Okay, so what am I doing? I have kept it into a method and this method is being called over here. That method what response will returns two things and I'm declaring two variables API comma. app for my API, and I'm calling that method into it. Does it make a huge difference? No, right? Basically, what was I doing? I have kept it into a method and calling that method. Idea is same, just taking a detour, like having a long route. But this long route will help me a lot. Uh, I restarted, you will see that there's no difference. But there is a slight change that I will do. In dbinit.py, previously from the app file, I was importing app, right? Instead, I would import create app. In here, what create, like I will call that create app method over here. Okay. Now, previously, if you remember from my app.py, I declared two variables and call this method. This is how we will be doing it over here too. But do one thing, see one thing, like that isn't a huge thing, but I am not using API over here. So if I have to skip it, I can use a underscore. And that would be done. Like if I give it a try, I can give it a try. See, same thing is happening. No change. Nothing. It's, everything is working fine as I wanted it to be. With this, I say that is the whatever that I have to
What,
explain or have to code is backend is done. Yes.
one question, sir.
Mm.
Sir, twice you have done that, right? If app and API create app. You have done it in
Uh,
DB init and
okay. So
app.
DBNet, I'm considering it not to be a direct part of our app, rather it's an extension. Let's see. What am I doing? Whenever I'm starting off the server, other file, config, model, then auth py, test py, those are the files that are being used whenever the Flask server is running. But DB init file is not being used. It's an one-time thing, and it is a separated or extended part of our app. Okay. So that is why I can do something like this. Are you getting my point? It is like
Mm, yes, I got your point. Why then you are creating beforehand that part I did not understand.
that creative method.
Yes, here why it is needed in DB
Oh,
init.
oh. As of now, I cannot show you the errors over here. But whenever we are going for backend jobs, that is the last day of our coding, then in that place I can show you. Before that, I cannot. Like, there will be some errors, and just to overcome that error, I have to do it in this way. Again, see, for celery, I'm saying it beforehand, but I would say it, I would repeat that way too. Celery is a part where it could be defined, initialized, and made to work in n number of ways. Multiple people could have multiple ways. Like if you search through GitHub or just in the whole internet, you can search for it. I say that if you find 10 codes, most probably 6 or 7 codes will be different from each other. Okay. So for celery implementation and to work with celery, there are n number of ways. What I prefer is this way, where I need this. Like basically, celery needs to consider itself within your Flask server so that it can interact with the rest of the part. Now, for that to happen, I have to like make it a subsidiary for our Flask server. In that case, I would be using it. How I used it for DBNet. We'll see that, and even I will show you the error. As of now, it's done, and yeah, that could be. I would say this is the basic backend, whatever backend code that I want to do. Anything? No. This would be it. The basic operations can be done from it. Yeah. The next day, I would add some more tables and APIs that are uses for those tables. So that would help me in the front end. But from there, uh, whatever coding part is there for today, it's done. Yeah. If you want to ask anything, if you want to discuss anything, then we are free and do that.
One question, sir.
Hmm.
I watched whole session, but one question is that in the beginning, why did you use the RESTful here, Flask RESTful,
In
to
the
make it
beginning,
like other files, eh, like
no,
to
no, you
make
can
it
use, see,
into.
no, 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 it's not that. Basically, I have seen, like, previously, I have got multiple queries that can I use Flask RESTful library, Flask RESTX library, and stuff. Yeah. So it's
Yes.
because of people like to use that like multiple times. So that is why I used it. Else, if I had to separate two different files, I could have used Blueprint. If you go through the Flask documentation, you will find Blueprint over there, right? I would have used it and separated it just for the sake of completion, nothing else. Just to showcase that yes, there is one more library and you can use it. If you want, you can use it. Else, Flask is always good. Give it a try. Check it. First I say coding is done. That is our part.